But thank you for being flexible at the last minute.
Always, always. I'm so excited to talk. I can't believe it's been a year since we did the last one.
I know that's it. I cannot believe it's been a year since everything. The last year has gone by so quickly.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. A wild year for you. Um,
Hmm. Very, very.
we'll talk about that a little bit, but everyone, we're talking Left of Forever. I've done my best to not spoil it so far. It's been really hard, but we're gonna stay spoiler free tonight. Um, we're gonna jump right in.
Perfect.
You, if I remember correctly, when you wrote Savor It, you did not intend for it to become more than the one.
Not when like the first, the idea. It's not the first like inkling of the idea, no. But pretty quickly when I started writing it, I knew that Ren and Ellis were going to be, um, they needed their own story, and I had an idea like for this general plot line that was cooking in the back of my head, and so yeah, when I saw the opportunity to use it for these two, it all just sort of came together. It's funny how the brain works like that. Like I had, an inkling of an idea for this sort of plot, and then I started this completely different book, and, then I just saw that the letters idea and all that could be a really um, interesting story for especially for a divorced couple.
Right. So I guess let's backtrack a little bit. Do you want to do like a summary of Left of Forever, or like the little elevator pitch?
Sure. I'm terrible at these. They are a divorced couple. They've been divorced for 5 years. They got married young, but before that, they had a kid very young. They were only 17 and 18. So they had been kind of childhood sweethearts, and then that happened. They got married young, and life kind of got them down, and ultimately, a lack of communication and a lot of life circumstances sort of making these characters the way they are, and made their relationship hard, and they sort of let it fall apart. So they've been divorced now for 5 years. Uh, they their son is now headed off to college, and Ellis proposes the idea that Ren take a road trip on the way back with him, to sort of see if they can give each other a shot again. Um, and then that's kind of how the prologue opens up. And after that, we learn that there was a letter exchange that happened the fall before, and yeah, it's just, I don't want to spoil too much, but they end up going on this road trip and sort of unpacking a lot and seeing that they still have a lot of chemistry and a lot of love for each other, and things kind of get cooking from there.
So, second chance romance, road trip. It's got
I
some,
should I should probably open with tropes, huh?
it's hitting. It's really hitting some great ones. Um, I know that I've seen it somewhere. I know you've said it, or at least I think I know you've said it, but I want to say you mentioned that this book is kind of the book of your heart. And I would love to know if you want to kind of talk about that a little bit more and what that means.
Yeah, it's always hard because it's not that one book is ever more special than the others. Like I look at every book that I've written as, a big piece of my heart. Even just from the experience I got out of it. Writing Savor It was the most difficult book I've ever written, but I really grew as a writer because of it. And but this one, I think I've been with my husband since we were 17, and I think that neither of us comes from um, a home situation where we had like a really great example, as far as like communication went. And so really exploring that within characters who aren't necessarily like us at all, but what it would be like to kind of grow up with somebody and learn how to fight well and why fighting is important, and also just communicate your way through it. I love this idea of, I really wanted to write a couple that was over 30, um, that had endured some, real life shit. And I love this idea that you get to fall in love with your person over and over again, because that does happen. Love changes the longer you're in it and everything, and when you're in a committed relationship. But and honestly, life is kind of the villain and does make relationships hard sometimes. And you just get kind of caught up in the chaos of life, especially when you start having, if you have kids, if you, whatever it is, your jobs. Um, but ultimately, like, lasting love comes down to choosing that person, choosing to communicate, choosing to, it comes down to a matter of choice. So, yeah, I really loved this idea that life sort of handed them this chance that um, reopen their eyes to what they had with each other, but that ultimately they needed to actively choose it. Um, and yeah, it just I am really proud of, some of the interesting things I employed to along the way. I tried to keep it in one timeline, which is hard to do with a second chance. Um, I love the epistolary element of it. Um, and they're just I haven't. Some books are a little bit more fun to write, um, and they some gut you and make you feel like you're on fire while you're writing them. That was this, and it was fun. uh, Favorite was like a more like a slow burn. This was like a raging fire the whole time I was doing it. So yeah, I also went into this book when I wrote it. I went, this one's probably going to be kind of like kind of a flop for people, not because I really try hard to like divorce myself of getting expectations up or hopes up when it comes to sales and that sort of thing. But they are characters over 30. They are divorced. They had a son when they were teens. They they went through an infertility battle. They go through very specific things. These are, and not a lot of my audience will necessarily be able to relate to that. So I just thought, whatever, I'm writing this one for me. And yeah, kind of all came together from there. I've been really blown away at how many people do relate to them, though. It's been so lovely.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to the early 20s reading it, but I know like you said, it's when you're in your 30s and you've been married and like you can totally relate to maybe not all of it, but different elements. And I did want to, you kind of touched on that there, but I wanted to get a little bit more into like what it was like digging into those like nitty-gritty challenging parts. Like, were there moments where you're just like, I can't do this? Or like, was it kind of just flowed freely?
Um, Yeah, there's always moments like that. There's always and like how there's always a question of like, how do I dig into this while also being handling it with care, where I never want to write something, I never want to manipulate people's feelings and write some like trauma porn, essentially was what some people call it, just to get your adrenaline up in certain parts and you feeling sick in this part just to make you feel. I don't want to do that. And so, but I also don't want to brush things under the rug and act like they're not an issue. So yeah, it definitely was difficult in spots. But I think when you spend so much time with characters and you end up loving them the way that I end up loving mine. I know how to do right by them, I guess. So yeah, when I was especially getting into some of the nitty gritty stuff, I when I talked to my editor at the time, kind of going through the road trip aspect of things, we wanted them to get to have like a good time and to get to have fun. So like, how do you give them the justification for that? Well, they successfully raised their son. He's headed off to college. They did it from when they were 17, while Ellis dealt with a lot of, he's been a parent to his siblings since he was 18 too. So really, they deserved to get to go and do this and focus on the present, but what things do you employ along the way where it forces them to have some like kind of difficult conversations. And so yeah, that was kind of where it allowed me to bring up, like, let's talk about two bad things a day and then this. And so they sort of went through it that way.
It really did just feel like a perfect recipe of like, okay, we're gonna have so much fun and we can do like this one hard thing per day. So
Yeah.
productive and playtime, and I loved it.
Oh,
I
good.
I wanted to talk a little bit more about the road trip because it is so fun. And like if you are someone that enjoys road trips, like you will love that part of this. And I want to know where you got like the inspiration, how you chose the locations. Like have you gone to those places or how did that happen?
Well, Spoons is made up, as we know. So that has a lot of my favorite Pacific Northwestern towns sort of mishmashed into it. It's partially based on Bandon, a little bit of Astoria in there. Those are both in Oregon. A little bit of Coos Bay, and I throw in little nods to the real places and in areas. I have, there's a town nearby that is mentioned. It's called Hughes Bay and Gandon instead of Bandon. But so when it came to them going down to California, I am in Northern California, and I love the Northern California coast too. People think of California beaches, they think of LA and San Diego and all this stuff. But I love Santa Cruz. I think it has a very specific, very funky vibe. And I had one book based there called The Co-op, and I there's a college here in just outside of Sacramento in a town called Davis, and they are kind of renowned for their vintners program, for their like winemaking program. And so I thought, oh, I could have Sam. Maybe he wants, he's into wine someday. He wants to go through that. And then I just sort of picked places that they could stop and go up the coast on their way back home. Um, Again, I sort of made up some places. Santa Cruz is obviously not made up. The boardwalk is not made up, and neither is, they go over to the Monterey Bay Aquarium. But there's even a restaurant there called Shadowbrook in Capitola, and that's what the restaurant that they go on a date to is based on, with the cable car and everything. That's all based on a real place. And there are so many wineries and so many ranches, and there's a really pretty, glamping spot. But I just sort of made up towns, again, based on real places that I know and love, but that I could sort of, people wouldn't look them up and be like, oh, there's no Irish festival that goes on there, which there are in some places. There are in some of those extra northern towns and all that. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted them. I didn't want each place to feel the same, so I didn't want every stop to be exactly on the coast and look the same and be the beach and be this. But I just sort of picked places that would make sense for them to go to on the way home.
Well, and I loved the little co-op like visits. Like
Easter
what do you call those? They're not Easter eggs. What are they? You know. When
crossover,
you infuse.
yeah,
Yes. There you go.
like a crossover moment. Yeah.
I loved that.
Yeah, I have.
Um,
Dukin and Loren are very special to me, and they're kind of off. I mean, I know their timeline, but they're in their epilogue. You find out that they got pregnant unexpectedly too, shortly after they opened the cafe and all that. It wasn't ideal timing, and so I really liked the idea of this couple that's been on the other side of all that, looking at this couple who's still happy, and even though they're in the middle of their unexpected circumstances and everything too. So.
okay, Cameo. That's what it is. Someone told us
Oh,
Cameo.
you're right. Yeah, that's
That's
that's that's better.
what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so the cable car scene is one of my favorites. And like the book is just so, it's like hilarious and so hot too. And I think
Yeah.
that's so magical, like how you can write like just serious situations and so funny and so like sexual and sensual. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't know like even how you start, but it's amazing.
Thank you. I love that scene. I loved their first kiss is definitely like it's my favorite first kiss that I've written just because they have a different they were married for a long time. They have a different sort of comfort level. Also, you know, they went through something very physical in their marriage and it anybody that's gone through an infertility battle knows that it can sort of take the sex out of sex. And so I really loved the idea of them getting to rediscover that and without, you know, I just thought it would be very liberating for them. That doesn't happen in the cable car scene. That's unrelated. But that's their first, you know, they have their first kiss and all that. And um, I love this idea. It's so funny because I don't normally love second chance, but when it's done well, like there's nothing quite like it when you know how somebody kisses and how somebody what they sound like, what they taste like. When you know all that, that I feel like the tension is kind of unmatched.
No, you're totally right. And I just, yeah, I think you did such a great job. And then pairing it with like just the moments of levity, like when he has like the issue with his eyes,
Yes.
that
Yeah.
I don't want to give too much away because it's one of the most hilarious scenes, but it's magic. It's so good.
Thank you. That's based on a real story
No way.
that happened to me.
I
Yeah. I went to a
was
cooking class.
so,
Yeah, it's awful. I went to a cooking. I mean, not everything like obvious after or anything obviously anyway, I went to a cooking class and it was with a group of my friends and we had gone out to dinner and had drinks and stuff before and you know everybody was a little buzzed and you know they separated us like out of our couples and just like that and it was so much fun but and I was the one chopping the peppers and everything and yeah I was miserable for my I mean I had ice cream dripping off my fingers and tears I couldn't open my eyes I was sitting on the sidewalk and one of the first things I said was like, "This is so going into a book." And I had one of my friends was like, "They say you can put oil. You can put oil too." And somebody else like, "Dairy, just like if you eat spicy food." And so that's how the ice cream came into play. It took hours for it to go away all the way. I could not open my eyes. I mean, they were tears just constantly streaming. It was brutal, but um, yeah, writing that scene, it definitely like peaks. It's like this chaotic moment. And for me, when I am trying to come up with scene ideas, um, I really try to weigh like I try so that they don't feel forced. I try to weigh like what would naturally take place during this and against like what could this scene sort of represent. And so for me, it was kind of like chaos all around them. Things get uncomfortable. Things don't go the way that they want them to. How do they cope? And
well,
so sort of came through at the end.
I'm so like sad that that happened to you, but it gave you such solid gold for this scene. So
Yeah,
I
it
don't know.
did. It did. You know what? I would deal with it again to for that to happen. I guess.
One thing I really loved was just kind of this the vein of like longing that was throughout the whole story. And it's I mean, it's slow burnish if you think about how long it's been and all of that. So, what do you think is like the key, or what have you found to be the key for you to just keep readers like emotionally invested in story and characters while you're getting to like the reunion or just the coming together?
I think a lot of it has to be like, how do you move them forward while also reminding them what's at risk and what they've been through. I think that uh, that's where, having really solidly fleshed out characters is important. These two people have been so self-contained because they've had to be. Um, Ellis has had his siblings to worry about. Ren has sort of parented herself in a lot of ways. They became actual parents young, and so they've spent most of their lives putting other people first, and that happens within a marriage. Like whether it's kids, whether it's family that needs you, whether it's friends, jobs, that happens all the time. And so I would just hope that again, people would find that and be able to relate to that aspect of it. But that's, I think, how it became realistic for them to be like where we have to co-parent. So we have to maintain enough distance between us where we can do that in a healthy way. And I think that that's one of the most loving things these two people could have done just for the sake of their son and all that. But how now that they have this, forced proximity, how do I slowly pry them open or like rip them open in a way? And I think the first rip happened with the letters aspect of things. Ren realized, she wasn't quite all the way closed off to um, wanting wanting something else, like wanting love again, even if it didn't look the same. And obviously Ellis, because he knows it's her, realized that he still had that much love for his wife and wanted to try to get her back. Yeah, I
What was
think.
the most fun part about writing this one?
Oh gosh, it's so hard because I love so much about it. I I mean, I love getting them to a point where they actually fought. I know that that's bad, but I think that maintaining tension and kind of knowing what's at risk, again, like if you've been in a long-term relationship, if you've been married and or not even that, but like, or if you're a child of a divorce, I've had so many people reach out to me saying like, this healed a piece of my divorced kid's heart because my parents could not be in the same room. I wish they had had that sort of self-control. I think that aspect was easy, but not easy, but easier. But getting them actually fighting and having when they had spent this whole time, like even down to making rules for themselves and saying like, let's share this, and one good thing a day, and one this, and even just like, well, we shouldn't do anything we've already done before. Like these are two people that I tried very hard to show how much um, how self-contained they are, and getting them to where they finally were just going to be a mess with each other was probably my my favorite aspect, because I think that's what makes it worth it in the end. They weren't just playing these roles, and they weren't trying to like brush everything under the rug, but they very much tiptoed to get to the big stuff.
Yeah, I mean, but I loved how it was like we're I mean, it's like Ellis said, like we're worth seeing about. Like it's worth it to do the tough stuff to see if there's something that we can get out of all of this. And I thought it just showed so well, and I loved it.
Thank you. Yeah, I love
If
that part.
What would you want like the big message for this one to be? Like if people could only take away one thing.
Oh gosh. um I think I keep saying it, but I think that lasting love ultimately comes down to choice. Like life is going to create circumstances that make relationships more difficult, no matter what your lot in life is. And some people really rebel against the idea of like marriage is difficult. It's not, but life is, and life isn't always easy. And being a healthy communicator isn't easy for everybody. Taking ownership of where we go wrong isn't always easy. So those types of things play a role in lasting love, and it life's going to throw you good chances too. But it ultimately is going to come down to a matter of choice. That's kind of my biggest takeaway with this, and my ultimate overarching goal with this one.
Well, I know that so many people are just going to love this one. I know so many people already have. And Left of Forever goes on sale Tuesday. I can't believe it's already here. Before you go, I did want to touch on um, the traditional versus indie because Savor It was your first traditionally published book. So what's that like? How's it go from you're doing everything yourself to now you've got to answer to someone like good,
Oh
bad,
God.
ugly, wonderful.
I mean, it's a mix of like everything. It's very, I think when you go the indie route, you are very aware of like building an author brand and having an audience and all that kind of stuff. When you go into the traditional side of things, like they have an idea on all that too, and so like even when it comes down to covers and everything, they want to do something that fits within your genre and shows like this is what this is. Um, I I think now I am finally getting used to this and taking advantage of having a team of people, and I feel like I've got a team. I do feel like I have a team of people now, um, and they care about it like I do. Nobody, but like at the end of the day, nobody's gonna ever care about your work. Not even the people that love it to death, or the people that make money off of it too. They're not gonna care about it quite the same that you do. And so you're the one that literally carved out a piece of your heart to and tried to put it into a story. So um, I always like keep that in mind at the same time. But I think the most interesting adjustment is the timeline of things. Like I'm finishing a book that will be out in a year, whereas like with indie, I could finish it, get it edited, and throw it out there whenever I wanted to. And it's hard to not tease everything really, really far in advance. Right now, this feels lovely and great and exciting. There will be a quiet period, though. I learned that in the last year. There's kind of a quiet period where the initial boom sort of peters out, and I'm not, I'm just sort of working on something that'll be really futuristic, and it feels a little like I, I'm prepared for that to come now, at least. So yeah.
It's very exciting though.
Thank
But I'm
you.
sure that's just so different and got to feel just bizarre going from one, I wouldn't say necessarily extreme, but just one different like situation to the next. But I'm so excited for you and I don't want to like rush this away because Left of Forever hasn't come out yet. But can you tell us a little bit more about what comes next after this one?
Yeah, I'm allowed to say that it's Silas's book. There's a lot of people that will be disappointed. A lot of people have been already been asking for Micah, and I laugh because I'm like, he said like three things, but it's probably because he's 6'6", and so everybody wants his book next. But yeah, for everything with Left of Forever and how I felt writing that, I had something that like happened in my personal life where I um, carried that into writing this one, and it's made it difficult, but also like so I don't know, moving and lovely, and I don't know. I feel really excited about writing about like heavier things like I got to touch on in Left of Forever, and I have carried that into this one. And Silas is probably I hate saying this, but Silas is probably my like favorite character. I worry less about certain characters and certain couples, right? Like Ren and Ellis they're for each other. They're so like happy in their own, like I just would never worry about them ever again. But Silas has such a big piece of my heart. I love him so much. So I'm very excited to wrap up his book.
I know, and if you're watching this and you're not in your Tara's channel, you should be because she posts little like snippets and it's worth it.
I like
And
being an absolute menace, so I delete them. I don't always leave them up. I delete them fairly quickly, so just to be, I don't know, chaotic, I guess.
well, maybe we can do this again, make it a yearly tradition. We'll talk about Silas. I love you so much. I love your books. I'm so glad that we're doing this. But thank you for joining.
I love
Everyone,
it.
go get Left of Forever. Also, if you don't have Favorite, get it. They are amazing. I love them. We love you, Tara. Thank you so much.
Love you guys. Thank you. I would love to make this a yearly tradition.
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it. We'll talk offline about it. Well, online, but not on here.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.